Yo, what up? Ogechi Aghaji, aka Oaghaji here with another review. Now, before I begin, just want to let y'all know, as usual, that if y'all hear any background noises and things like that, that's my family, even though it's a little quiet right now. Just want to give y'all a heads up just in case. Anyway, with that out of the way, let us begin this review, shall we? Now, today's review is going to be on the third story arc in the 1987 dystopian post-apocalyptic martial arts action manga series, a Seinen post-apocalyptic dystopian martial arts action manga series, no less, Riki-Oh, written by Masahiko Takajo and drawn by Tetsuya Saruwatari. And it's what I like to call the Mizuguchi arc. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna name it for this particular story arc. It reads from like chapters 31 through like 41 or 40, depending. So, yeah, let's begin. Now, this arc picks up right after the Child of Destruction arc, since Riki-Oh, had to kill his brother, Nachi. He now travels to the other parts in Japan, and he stops at this train. Along the way, he's, trying to suffer, trying to make himself suffer due to the fact that he had to kill his own brother that he loved so dearly. So he faces off against a bunch of enemies. First, it was a couple of Yakuza that was picking on this old couple that run the store. He pretty much saves them, even though he lies that he didn't save them for them. He did just to satisfy his violent hunger, especially what happened. And then and then it reaches up to a Yakuza boss, in this dystopian Japan, right? And he comes in, let's, meet Riki-Oh. It's the guy who's been doing this, that killed his man. And then he realizes that it was Riki-Oh. And he decides to send his henchman Isaku to finish him, who is very, very strong. He kills a guy, So Riki-Oh and Isaku fight, but he didn't kill him. He doesn't kill him. He just gives him so bits of mercy because he wants to slowly kill him, one by one. But then it's stopped by, Busan, I believe, who is very skilled with the sword, and he has these, this also has these needles, right? He faces him off, and then, no, at first he doesn't kill the fighter, but, and then they were stopped by, this gangster, Mizuguchi, and, he has all this power, and, Riki-Oh recognizes him, that he was the one that put, Riki-Oh's adopted father, Saiga, and his family into bankruptcy, and stuff like that. And so, Mizuguchi, and he was also the one that shot Mizuguchi, he was also the guy that shot Riki-Oh 5 times. Sorry, I was speaking too fast because I want to get to the plot. He shoots, he decided, I'm going to use this rocket launcher, and Riki-Oh surprisingly stopped it. And, he decided he wanted to kill him, but, Mizuguchi tells him that he knows who his real father is, and he wants Riki-Oh to work for him. Riki-Oh tells him that, searching for my father is is very crucial to me, especially with what happened, to his brother and whatnot. Throughout this arc, he comes, he has Isaku accompanying him, He decided not to work for the Yakuza no more, and, whatnot. And then we come to find out that, Mizuguchi, he's not just some sleazy gangster. He has a lot of power and influence that can trump even the biggest of Yakuza. Especially for the fact that, he visits his mother's graves and finds an heirloom, a bayonet sword. And then we meet, Riki-Oh Sifu, who taught him, the Chinese Kung Fu style, I forgot his name. But anyways, his master tells, Riki-Oh's master Sifu tells him that, trying to find his father's true identity will bring out a lot of suffering. But Riki-Oh tells him, look, I have to find out who my father is, or else my new life won't really begin. And he has to face Mizuguchi as well. And Riki-Oh and Isaku, come in, but before they come, meanwhile, what else? Oh yeah, Riki-Oh also and Isaku come to this church where we come to realize that Mizuguchi has done, and his man did some experimentations, like some poison and whatnot, and they find this little girl who lost her parents because of this experimentation at the church. Mizuguchi's, henchmen, came in, to burn up the place up and try to kill him. And Riki-Oh, finished him off like he usually does, bringing that punishment to these evildoers, like this angel of death, basically. So Isaku and Riki-Oh take, this little girl home with them to, Isaku's mother, who definitely runs this little shop, and she admits him, even though she doesn't really show it. Throughout this time, Riki-Oh, Isaku, and Isaku's old mother, they had a good time raising this little kid, having her have fun with the kids and all that. Riki-Oh decides to leave because he felt that he would put them all in danger, especially since he has to find his adoptive father and his real father, who he saw his adoptive father during the time where Riki-Oh was wandering throughout this dystopian Japan. And he finds his adoptive father, as well as an old friend of his who's like a sister to him. And he saved their lives, earlier from Mizuguchi's gang, anyways, Isaku's mother came in and told him that, hey, leaving her, will break her heart, even though it's the right thing to do, especially since she lost her parents, which is true. And then, Mizuguchi's gang, comes in and they start killing people to lure out Riki-Oh. And Riki-Oh tries to stop them, but Isaku tries to stop them, but Riki-Oh wasn't having it, especially since, they killed some people, especially a young kid's, a kid's dad, a boy who plays with the little girl that Riki-Oh and Isaku save. And so Riki-Oh delivers some real, deadly justice to them, and they sent out one of Mizuguchi's 3 crows, Genji Iwato, who's very strong, So, he gives, he gives Riki-Oh some trouble, He's pretty skilled. And then Riki-Oh lost, willingly, I might add. So that way, Iwato can get him to Mizuguchi's lair, which his plan succeeds. He beats up, Iwato, Genji, and then he kills him. And Genji admires his strength, and Riki-Oh asks him, why would you work for Mizuguchi? Especially since you had some respect for Isaku earlier and whatnot, and Genji tells him that to save his daughter, and Mizuguchi, has her, if he doesn't kill Riki-Oh, Mizuguchi will kill his daughter, and then he dies. Riki-Oh felt, killed for killing Iwato Genji, especially since we get to see with Genji that he's not that bad of a guy. He does have a good heart, especially to Isaku, and telling Isaku to take care of his mom. This pisses off Riki-Oh, obviously. He beats up the guards and he faces Mizuguchi throughout this fight. And then Riki-Oh, fights against a man, but he gets shot by Genji's daughter, who thought was the one responsible for her father's death, And she is the daughter of Iwato Genji, just to let y'all know. And even though Riki-Oh did kill him, but he didn't know that, he had a daughter until later on. So she blames him, and because of this, she shot Riki-Oh and leaves him unconscious. And so Mizuguchi decides to have Riki-Oh be put into somewhere so he can be killed permanently. And he decides to have his chef Momichi do the job. It was a very tough match. Riki-Oh was able to come back alive and fights off against the men, and then he fights Mimuchi. And Momichi is is skilled with the knife, and he ain't no ordinary cook. He's definitely skilled with that knife. Like a samurai of some sort. Anyway, Isako comes in to help Riki-Oh, and he gets killed in the process. Isako wanted this because he wanted to die like a man, so he can atone for all the evil deeds he did for Mizuguchi and his gang. And so, because he decided to give Riki-Oh, his arm for his blood, so his blood can help Riki-Oh heal. And he also gave Riki-Oh the bayonet sword as well. It was the heirloom from his mom. And throughout this, Riki-Oh faced off against the many men of Mizuguchi, like Mao, for example, who he kills with a very powerful punch, And then he gets to Mizuguchi, and Mizuguchi wasn't having it, especially since Mizuguchi was supposedly summoned by Mukai, but it was actually Aneyama, one of Mukai's men. As Evis is about to finish off Mizuguchi, or is about trying to kill him, he faces off against another of Mukai's men and Mizuguchi's men, which is Bujin-san, who is in fact triplets from a circus, what I'm saying? And they're very skilled, but Riki-Oh, defeats them along with Ma, like I said before. And then before he tries to kill Mizuguchi, he wants Mizuguchi to tell him who his real father is. And basically such as Mizuguchi is about to tell him who his father is, he gets killed by Mao. And oh yeah, I got that mixed up. When it comes to Mao gets killed by Riki-Oh after Mao kills Mizuguchi. And it was easy work for Riki-Oh. When it comes to Mao, even though he has the superhuman strength and he uses his hair like a whip. As well as a whip and a sword and whatnot. So Mao was no scrub, but Riki-Oh is the better fighter of the two. So he was able to save, Genji's, daughter on top of that as well. And that's pretty much the Mizuguchi arc. Oh, and before I forget, excuse me, he faces off against another one of Mukai's men, which is Aneyama and Barakido, who is, very skilled fighter himself, but especially with the Kai using knives, but which ultimately kills Riki-Oh's adopted father, Saiga. After it didn't really kill Saiga, but it just have him injured nonetheless, which I will talk about in the later arc, which I'll get into it. But yeah, Mizuguchi's reign ended, and Riki-Oh was able to save his adopted father from Aneyama as well as Barakido, so which is nice. Overall, the Mizuguchi arc is a pretty good story arc, Masahiko Takajo definitely, amped up the writing, and Tetsuya Saruwatari was awesome with the art as always, so it's a pretty good story arc. This arc gets a 5 out of 5 in my opinion. Hopefully y'all enjoy this reviews despite some of the hiccups here and there and some of the plot elements that I got mixed up, but To be fair, I'm doing this off the cuff, you know what I'm saying? It's been a while since I've read finished reading that arc and finished reading the whole manga, so I have to, get some photographic memory, to give y'all a brief synopsis of the arc. But anyway, let me know what y'all think about the Mizuguchi arc, which is like chapters 31 through like 38, 31 through 41 in the comments below, you know what I'm saying, if y'all read it already. If y'all like this video, y'all can hit that like button and share it. Y'all can subscribe to the channel if y'all enjoy this type of content. Y'all can also follow me on my other social media accounts, and stay tuned for more other reviews and more other videos along the way. So with all that said, this is your boy, Ogechi Aghaji, aka Oaghaji, aka the Perfect Sensei, signing out. Peace.